Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Charlie Ironmonger. Thank you so much for joining me today for another edition of Charlie Loves Science. Now again, I continue to want to tell you guys about some updates with solid state batteries. That is now going to be coming up next Wednesday when we finally shake this winter chill that we are in. But you know, when the weather is topical and we've got a situation that we don't usually see in eastern North Carolina, it's worth talking about. So today, again, we are now going to be focusing on why it has been so cold in eastern North Carolina over the past few weeks. In order to do that, we first need to establish a baseline. What do we usually see this time of year? Where are we usually at temperature-wise on a day-to-day basis? And normally we end up seeing air temperatures for your highs around the upper 50s and lows in the upper 30s. That is normal for this time of year. We're a little bit below that today. In fact, we've been below that quite a bit over the past several weeks. And past, here's a look at the past 30 days. And I really want to point out, look at how many of those bars, the latest ones over on, again, on this side of your screen here, how many are so far down. We have seen a complete departure from normal ever since really the 23rd of January. Ever since then, we have been well below our seasonal average. We're talking not just, you know, a couple degrees here or there. We're talking 15, 13, 16, 14, 19, 16, 27, 25 degrees below our seasonal norm. This is, again, very cold air, and it's only unlocked through specific upper level air setups. Whenever the jet stream, again, decides it can drift a little bit further south, that opens us up to more of this cold air. So let's take you through exactly what we have seen over the past few weeks. Now, earlier when we were talking about not this last weekend's system, but more so the snowstorm that wasn't, we were looking at a jet stream that was pretty much draped right over eastern North Carolina. But then what we saw come off of the Arctic Circle was an area of energy, a low pressure system that really tugged and pulled that jet stream down all the way into the Gulf. Normally, whenever we get, you know, cold snaps, they usually last, you know, a few days, but then they kind of clear out and that jet stream rebounds back up towards the north. But the flow of several weak low pressure systems kept that jet stream all the way down into the Gulf, as you can see, covering up just about the entirety of the southeastern United States. Even Florida saw some flurries off of this past weekend's low jet stream. It has, again, unlocked a lot of very cold air for us. And right now, we are still kind of stuck in that same pattern. While the jet stream is inching its way further and further northward, right now it is still south of eastern North Carolina, which keeps us in the very cold zone. Once that jet stream shifts north of us, we are going to get back to our seasonal average in terms of air temperatures. We're going to be warming up. And in fact, for those of you wondering, it's going to happen coming up next week. That jet stream is going to be moving over and north of us through the week next week. And that, again, unlocks a little bit more warmth than what we have seen. Now, of course, we are keeping a close eye on what this means for our forecast coming up over the next few days. But ironically, we are currently in a La Nina winter pattern. You know, the jet stream there, denoted by the arrows showing over your screen, far north of where the current position of the jet stream is. Again, this is why La Nina and El Nino, while they're generalities, they can give us a pretty good look at, you know, long-term changes in your forecast. They're not very good at predicting specifics. We're talking on a day-to-day basis. When we're doing La Nina and El Nino outlooks, it's more month to 2 to 3 months where we're trying to determine how cold, wet, warm, dry everything is going to be. When you focus it more over kind of a week-to-week or even a day-to-day basis, you can again see deviations off of this pattern, and that's obviously what we have seen so far this week. So as far as what we've got coming up as we head through the next few days, that area of low pressure is still going to feel the impacts from that jet stream being so far south. And you'll note that jet stream, that low pressure system right there over Boone, that is going to, again, kind of get tugged a little bit further south by the jet stream, opening us up again to additional cold air. Here again, you can see that low slowly sinking a little bit southward and then heading towards Cape Fear, putting us in what is considered the cold sector of that frontal system. Where you're seeing all the rain there from really the warm front southward extending all the way down to the cold front, that's where the warm air sits. That's why all of the moisture you're seeing there is coming down as rain. That's also why you're seeing the moisture there. You got to remember, whenever we're talking about warmer air, it usually comes with more moisture. Very rarely in eastern North Carolina do we see a very hot and dry air mass. Usually the more heat we get, the more humidity flows in, the more moisture we have. That's exactly what we're seeing off the coast, but as you can see, we don't have that same sort of moisture content for the colder air because it is, again, more dense. Now, Terry Brown, here we go again, Charlie. Here we go again. Not this system that's coming up really tonight into tomorrow, not nearly as impactful of a system as what we just got done with this past weekend. And because that jet stream, while it is south of us, it's not quite as far south, and we also don't have the same setup for moisture that we did with the last system. This low pressure system is coming in off the land, and then it's going to continue to cruise out into the Atlantic. So as that happens, it's going to take that moisture opportunity away from us, and that's going to take a lot of the snowfall potential off of the board. If that low sank a little bit further south and then hung off the coast of the Carolinas, yeah, we would be looking at a much different setup. But because that low is going to make a pretty clean exit, not really showing a lot of deviation, or at least not stalling near the coast, that means, again, everything is going to be pretty much wrapped up and done by the time we get into Friday. But let's take a zoomed in look at exactly what we are seeing. I'll get my face off of the screen there. That way you guys have a better view of what to expect as we make our way through tonight. But again, I really want to highlight the fact that we are looking at warmer conditions coming up next week. If you are tired of the snow, you're tired of the ice, you're tired of the threat of sleet and canceled school, next week is going to be a week for you. So here's what we got. 8:30, again, rain showers across the east. Keep an eye on your air temperatures as well. Still throughout eastern North Carolina, even as we head towards 1 a.m. tomorrow morning, still seeing air temperatures above 32 degrees. That is key. As that rain-snow line drifts southward and we see more eastern North Carolina's communities drift down below 32 degrees, you start to see, again, an opportunity for some freezing rain, sleet, and some snowflakes. Now, not anticipating much in terms of snow. Maybe a dusting, up to an inch in some areas north of Highway 64, but this is not looking like the amount of moisture we need if we were to anticipate a whole bunch of snow. We would need far more moisture. We've got the cold air, yes, but it is not going to arrive when that moisture is at its peak. And here we go, by 10 a.m., we're starting to see more eastern North Carolina's counties and really cities start to bump back up towards freezing and get a little bit warmer than freezing. That's 10 a.m. tomorrow. Now, by this time, we are still anticipating some snow flurries coming down, but it does not look like we are going to be seeing anything really stick to the roads by that point. And as we head towards 2 p.m., everything dries out and we are left with skies that will gradually clear overnight Thursday night into Friday. So that is essentially a kind of a breakdown of exactly what we have seen over the past several weeks to give us kind of 3 rounds of winter weather. I know that first round, when the lows split, we were talking about it a couple weeks ago, it kind of robbed us of that snowfall chance. This past weekend, completely opposite setup. It was a classic setup. We had lots of cold air present, and we ended up with quite a bit of snow out of that system. Upwards around a foot, even higher totals across eastern North Carolina, which, again, for those of you who've lived here, pretty much any amount of time, know that that is a rarity for eastern North Carolina, and it's not something we usually see. mostly because the jet stream doesn't drift that far south for that long, keeping that cold air locked in place. If you can get cold air locked in eastern North Carolina for about a week or more, chances are pretty good you're going to end up with some moisture rolling by at some point to give us an opportunity for snow. That cold air has certainly stuck with us for about 2 weeks now. And as we head into next week, we are going to get back to our seasonal average. That jet stream is going to move north of us, and our opportunities for more snow will again continue to shrink as we get closer and closer to spring, and more importantly, as that jet stream drifts further and further northward. Well, that's all we have time for today's Charlie Loves Science. I also love the atmosphere, which again we have now focused on for 3 weeks in a row. But with winter weather in eastern North Carolina, always important to highlight it. And again, we were unable to give you guys your forecast with our past 2 o'clock update. So really wanted to make sure you guys understood why it is so cold, why we have seen the winter weather we have so far this season, and why it's going to be changing as we head through the next couple weeks. We will be back with more news and weather coming up at the top of the hour. Until then, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday.